Thanks for being here. Subscribe to Cheating Stories Best, so you don't miss new stories.
My wife decided to try a new experience with her coworkers at the law firm, but something went wrong. Today's story has a similar plot. Enjoy it! I am establishing spousal support at $2,000 per month as well as continued payment of the home mortgage, $11,000 child support, and health insurance until the minor child reaches adulthood. In addition, if the child is in college, you are required to pay these expenses. The judge ruled that this solution would have cost me over $6,500 per month. My wife cheated on me with several lawyers in her firm, and now they have screwed me. My name is Kurt D'Angelo, and my ex-wife's name is Lily, short for Lillian. My daughter, my pride and joy, is Regina. To say she's a daddy's girl would probably be an understatement. Whenever she was free, I took her with me to different sites. She told the judge that she wanted me to be her guardian, but he didn't want to listen to her. The whole process was complete crap. The monthly alimony payments were outrageous. Lily worked, she made money. I didn't have to support her and pay the mortgage and everything else. I was definitely shortchanged, and the judge was in on it. However, I was not going to accept this. In fact, I was already planning to make her regret ever crossing my path. I can be vindictive when I feel wronged. I grew up on the south side of Chicago, Lansing, Illinois, to be exact. We know how to hurt someone. Some people call me an entrepreneur. Rather, I am a businessman who sees opportunities and takes advantage of them. When I was young, I must admit that not all of these opportunities to make money were completely legal. I am currently involved in real estate, owning several rental houses, vending machines, and another business that would be useful to me to fulfill one of my obligations to my loving wife, that is, my ex-wife. I own a coin-changing business similar to Coinstar, with machines throughout Chicagoland as well as northern Indiana. This will allow me to pay spousal support, all $20,000 of it, every little bit. Let her bring them to the bank. They will insist that they all be put in rolls. Maybe she could call one of her lawyer friends to help count them and put them in rolls. Lily stayed home with Regina until she went to school. Lily then worked part-time for the next few years. Then she had the idea of becoming a paralegal. She took classes for about 2 years and then flooded the resume market trying to find a job. After about 6 weeks, she was hired by one of the large law firms in the area. Lily is smart, but now I believe it was her looks, even at 32, that helped her get the job. She was one of many paralegals at the firm, but it didn't take long for her to get promoted. She was noticed by some promising lawyer, and he made her his assistant. Now I wonder if she was doing me a favor at the time. Like a stupid husband, I fully supported her career choice. She came home tired but with a smile on her face. Again, thinking back, I wonder why she was exhausted and what those smiles were for. We lived in a nice house in Oak Forest, Illinois, a typical working-class suburb of Chicago. As she began interacting more with younger lawyers and even senior partners, her attitude changed. It began to sound like this: "We need to move to a better area. You make good money, and I work in a prestigious law firm. We need to show the world that we have succeeded. I like the house in which we lived. We renovated it and made it ours. I didn't want or intend to live in one of the expensive suburbs." Well, after 2 years of pestering, I agreed but told her that I was not selling our house. It was our house. We could rent it out and add it to the other rental houses I owned. So we bought a house on the north side of Chicago in Wilmette. We had to take out a jumbo loan to afford the $900,000 mansion, as I called it. It wasn't on the shores of Lake Michigan, but it was pretty close. She furnished it with new furniture according to her taste. I never felt comfortable there. In fact, looking back on it now, I think it was the beginning of the end for us. We wanted different things from life. I wanted to be humble, like the millionaire next door that no one knows about. She wanted to flaunt her wealth and live this lifestyle. Now let's go back to the judge's decision in our divorce decree. I will follow his demands to the end, but she won't like it. Over the next month, I began to make my plans. My daughter will receive child support, but Lily will not see any of it. They will be in the account only for Regina so that she can get what she needs and wants. She will also have health insurance, the best I could find. Lily, however, will only receive emergency coverage. This will be a policy with a very high deductible. She would pay for all of her medical care unless she became terminally ill. Then the policy would continue. After 30 days, it was time to pay Lily the first amount of spousal support. An armored truck drove up to the mansion, and the driver knocked on the door. When she approached the door, she was not alone. One of her friends was with her. The driver told her he was delivering her first month's payment. She was confused, not understanding why an armored truck was parked at the entrance. By this time, several curious neighbors had emerged from their McMansions. Perhaps they thought she had won the publishing house lottery. They saw two guys carrying bag after bag of change into the front room and emptying it onto the Italian marble floor. The sound was amazing, even from across the street where I was standing by my car and filming everything on my phone. When the truck drove away, she saw me and started shouting after me. I simply waved my hand and shouted back, "I hope you enjoy your money." Then I got into my pickup truck and drove off. I wasn't surprised when a man approached me on Tuesday and asked if I was Kurt D'Angelo. I just stood there and didn't pay any attention to him. "Sorry, sir, are you Kurt D'Angelo?" he said with great emphasis. Again, I didn't spare him a glance. He took out his phone and took a photo of me with the proposed subpoena. When I did not accept it, he threw it to the ground and said, "You have been notified." He turned and left. When I was sure he had left, I bent down and picked up the summons. I was supposed to appear in court next Wednesday. This gave me a week to complete all the preparations. I spent this week usefully, calling and talking to people, making arrangements, and preparing for the trial. I also called Regina, and we went to lunch. She was angry with her mother. She couldn't believe she had become such a. She again told her mother that she wanted to live with me, but she did not agree. "I'll go back to the judge, and if he still doesn't agree, I'll probably end up in jail," I told her. "Don't do anything cruel, Dad. It's not worth it." "Don't worry, I won't. But I will express my opinion, and for this, I could be put in prison. Your mom will be delighted with this, I'm sure. Don't worry about me, I can handle it. For you, however, I have created a trust. Uncle Ken will be your confidant until you reach adulthood. He will make sure that everything you want or need is provided. But understand, your mother won't get any of this. This is for your support, not hers. Of course, Dad. She doesn't deserve anything," she said decisively. This was my girl. She was strong-willed and becoming quite mature. "Dad, I will go to court with you, and I will demand that I live with you. I don't know if this will be of any use." Wednesday came, and Regina, my lawyer, and I sat in the gallery, waiting our turn before the judge. Lily came in with her lawyer friend and said, "Hey, you better stick to the program. You can't do whatever you want." "You'll see," I replied. When the judge called my name, Regina stood up and was the first to approach the podium. "Sorry, miss. This is Kurt D'Angelo's case," the judge said. "Well, I'm his daughter, and I want to petition the court again so that my father becomes the guardian and not this, my mother," she said and looked at Lily. "Young lady, you will not talk like that in my courtroom. Your custodial parent has already been determined. But I'm 15 years old. I should have the right to choose who I want to be with," she demanded, interrupting the judge. "Well, there were allegations of improper relations with your father, so I ruled in favor of your mother." Hearing this, I looked at Lily, and a smirk appeared on her face. My lawyer stepped forward. "Your Honor, we are not aware of any charges, and they were not brought forward or presented to the court at any of the previous meetings. I refer to the psychiatrist's report that I received with this information. I stand by my decision, so this issue is closed." About 4 months ago, Regina was going through a difficult divorce as well as problems at school, so we decided to take her to a psychiatrist. There must have been something in these notes that Lily thought could sway the judge in her favor. I have never had any inappropriate behavior with my daughter. Lily tried to make me out to be a pedophile. My blood pressure was rising. I couldn't believe Lily could lie like that, accusing me of something I didn't do. The judge didn't even let me finish. I stared at the judge. He will pay for this. I guess her law firm was making bets. Let's see what they all do in the end. My vindictive nature was beginning to make itself felt. Lily's lawyer spoke. We are asking the court to find Kurt D'Angelo in contempt of court. My lawyer was almost as hot as I was now. He saw that there would be no justice in this courtroom today. Your Honor, my client has complied with all the conditions of the divorce decree. There are no grounds for disrespect. Your Honor, said Lily's lawyer, his monthly spousal support payment was delivered a week ago on Saturday and thrown on the floor of her residence. And what? The judge asked. It was the amount of $2,000, sir, all in change, mostly pennies and nickels. This caused some damage to the flooring and required a significant amount of time and effort to clean up. My lawyer didn't even wait for the judge's answer. He was already ready. Your Honor, Section 5103 of Title 31 of the United States Code reads, the coins and currency of the United States are legal tender for the payment of all debts, government dues, taxes, and duties. My client was paying the required spousal support. Likewise, he met his insurance, home mortgage, and child support requirements. Your Honor, said Lily's lawyer, as of this date, my client has not received child support from Mr. D'Angelo. That's right, Your Honor, my lawyer said. Child support was transferred directly to his daughter for any needs and requirements that she may have. You can ask her yourself. The judge was stunned. He looked at Regina, and she smiled, nodding her head. We have canceled insurance and mortgage checks, my lawyer said. I looked at Lily and her lawyer. They were trying to come up with something. Your Honor, Lily's lawyer said, the fact that the payment was made in change creates serious difficulties for my client. Can we ask that she be given a check in the future? The judge was finally able to get a word in. That seems reasonable. Before he could say anything else, my lawyer spoke. Your Honor, before you speak further on this matter, could you answer a couple of questions pertaining to this? And which ones are those? The judge asked. Are the Chicago police part of the legal system of the city of Chicago? The judge looked at my lawyer like he was crazy. Of course, they are. Why then, my lawyer continued, if my client's car is impounded and he wants to take it from the Chicago police impound lot, he cannot write a check but must pay with cash or a credit card? The judge stuttered. My lawyer continued, if the police, by your own admission, are part of the Chicago legal system and refuse to accept a check, then how can my client be required to pay future spousal support in the form of a check? The judge, now looking like a buffoon, began to defend himself. Because this is my court, and what I say has power. At this point, I had enough. I stood up. Because you are the law and you are trying to please my wife's law firm? What, was she a society girl for you too? At this point, he exploded. Mr. D'Angelo, I find you in contempt of court and sentence you to 6 months in the Cook County Jail unless you apologize to me in the court and agree to any conditions I impose. And who are you? The king of this kangaroo court? I shouted. The judge was shocked. I'm sure he'd never been talked to like that before. Bailiff, take this man into custody. I looked at Lily and her lawyer. They were stunned. Good luck getting your money, I said and then smiled. She didn't know how much her life would change. I was taken to a cell, strip-searched, and transferred to prison. Prison is not a very good word, it's more like a dungeon. Immediately, 2 guards began to pester me about the disrespect I showed to the judge. I wasn't afraid of prison. My height is 193 centimeters and my weight is about 116 kilograms. Working on rental properties kept me in shape. In addition, as a teenager, I had to spend a little time in prison. I was processed and taken to the prison yard. I ignored all the talking and shouting but firmly decided to stay away and always be on alert. As long as no one contacted me, I would be a ghost. When the evening meal was served, I took my tray and made my way through the line. I stood against the wall and ate, looking around at the scrawny guys who were trying to appear bigger than they were. Then, from the roar, I heard a voice that I had not heard for literally several decades. Tex! I've been called Tex by my street friends since I was a juvenile delinquent. Tex, said Randall, also known as Ringer. What the hell are you doing here? As he approached, many eyes followed him and turned to me. I set down my tray and grabbed him in a manly hug, clasping my right hand between us and wrapping my other arm around his shoulders. Ringer, well, you're just a sight for sore eyes. How the hell are you doing? Well, I'm here, so it's not very good. You too, I think. What have you done? Basically, I told the judge that he was an idiot. That's enough, he said. So how long were you imprisoned? 6 months, I think. We talked and got looks from some of the prisoners. Ringer told me about the situation. He told me he would watch my back, and I agreed. We talked about old times. So what are you going to do about your ex, her lovers, and the judge? He asked after I told him everything. He knew me from my youth. Revenge was always part of how I dealt with things back then. In fact, that's how I got the nickname Texas. Tex is short for Texas, as in don't mess with Texas. Those who crossed me paid. They would think twice before contradicting me and would tell others about it. So, the judge, what happened there? He asked. I told him he was basically a piece of crap. Oh, what did he do? He asked. He took my little girl from me, although she asked to live with me, and then accused me of molesting her. Oh, and what are you going to do about it? I have some plans. I kind of assumed I'd be here, so I started planning a few weeks ago. Can I help with anything? He asked. Maybe, but right now I don't know. Although, of course, it's nice to have a friend here. I'll introduce you to some of my friends. It's good to have people who have your back and who you can rely on. After a few introductions to some friends, Ringer started telling stories about us running around the streets of Lansing. There were a few chuckles, but mostly nods, as if their stories weren't all that different from each other. That night, I lay in my bed staring at the wall. How could this happen? I asked myself. Then I started replaying my life. My childhood was rough by most people's standards, a father who was a violent drunk and a mother who had no backbone at all, even when my father started beating me. This forced me to spend most of my time on the streets. I met a group of guys in a similar situation. We weren't a gang, although we pretended to be one. We were just stupid kids solving problems that were thrown at us. The crime rate in Lansing is quite high, and we weren't helping those statistics. Mostly little things, but we stole a couple of cars. This is what brought me to the colony. Looking back, it was the best thing that happened to me. Of course, it was hard, but it gave me time to think about the direction my life was heading. I swore to myself that I would do something with my life. When I got out, I changed and started making plans for the future. By the time I was 20, I had saved enough money to buy the house next door that had been repossessed. It was the first of many houses that I renovated and began renting out. When I was 22, I was in a club trying to get lucky. I don't even remember the name of the club. It changed names so many times over the next decade before being torn down to make way for condominiums. I was really lucky that evening, or so I thought at the time. I met Lily. We hit it off. Her life was very different from mine. She had just moved to Chicago to live with a friend. She grew up in Seymour, Indiana. Seymour is a small town. Growing up in a small town in the Midwest created a 21-year-old woman with an attitude toward life that I found attractive. I think opposites attract. We got married a year later, and a year after that, Regina was born, named after Lily's mother. I bought a house in Oak Forest to sell it, but when she saw it, she loved it and wanted to make it our home. We spent the next 10 years setting it up the way we wanted it. These were the best 10 years of my life. We worked on house projects together, watched our daughter grow up, and invited neighbors to barbecues. This was the American dream. Then Lily got a job at a law firm, and everything started to change, mainly her attitude towards life. The simple life no longer suited her. She had to have expensive clothes, jewelry, and neighborhood barbecues gave way to trips to expensive restaurants, often with people from her law firm. She also began making derogatory statements about residents of Chicago's South Side. I know the reputation and reality of the South Side, but she was a country girl who acted like she was better than everyone else. We had a lot of arguments because of this attitude. Shortly after that, she started constantly trying to convince me to move to the North Side. 3 years ago, we moved. Of course, the school system was better, but now Regina experienced the attitude of her classmates from the north side. This made her school life unbearable. She said over and over again that she wanted to go home. Me too, but Lily didn't want to hear about it. She was where she wanted to be. The event that marked the beginning of the divorce was a night like many others at that time. She called around 6:30 and said she was going to a dance with other paralegals from her job. However, that evening I tracked her phone and decided to check on her. I stood in the shadows and watched her. Of course, she danced, but with guys from the club. They passed her around as if she were free for everyone. They kissed, fondled, groped, and did everything on the dance floor except intimate. At about 9:15, I needed to go to the toilet to relieve myself. While I was doing my business in the stall, a guy came in and started flushing the urinal. While he was finishing, another guy came in. "Damn it, Joe, you rocked her on the dance floor. I thought you were going to do it right there." "Yeah, she's just a wild little thing," said the first guy. "Yes, and she knows how to use her mouth," said the second guy. "You know, she said that she would go to my house this evening. Finally, we can have proper intimate, not 20 minutes in the office or in the back seat of my car. Yes, it's good for immediate relief, but it doesn't compare to a full intimate experience." "Well, today we'll have fun all night," the first guy boasted. "Maybe next weekend it'll be my turn," the second guy said as they both left the restroom. I know guys love to talk, but this sounded more real than just bragging. I came out of the restroom a minute late to find her in the arms of one of the guys making out on the dance floor. Around 9:30, she texted me saying that she had had a little too much alcohol and didn't feel comfortable enough to take a taxi so late in the evening. She texted me that she was going to spend the night with Paula, one of the other paralegals in her office. I wrote back to her, "That's good." She then wrote back, "Sorry." She will be sorry. I saw her take her purse and leave the club hand in hand with a young lawyer from her office. I followed them. They were so engrossed in each other that she didn't notice me. They jumped into his Lexus and kissed and groped each other for several minutes. I started to get angry, but then my Southside vindictiveness took over, and I calmed down and made my plans. Then I followed them to his house. They pulled into the parking lot, and I went to the mansion. When I arrived, I explained to Regina that we were leaving and that she should pack everything she wanted because we would not be returning. She was very happy but asked, "What about Mom?" "Other guys will take care of her now," I replied. She understood perfectly what I meant. It took us about 3 hours, but we packed everything into the back of my pickup truck. Luckily, our house in Oak Forest had recently become vacant, so we had somewhere to go. Around 11 a.m. the next day, Saturday, she called me on my cell phone. "Kurt, what's going on?" "Where are you?" "Home," that's all I said. It only took her a couple of seconds to understand what I meant. "Why?" she asked, knowing full well why. "I don't know you anymore, and I don't want to know you." "Where is Regina?" "With me." "She doesn't want to live with you in that house anymore." I knew she wasn't sure if I knew anything about her boyfriend or not, so she said, "Come on, Kurt, if you don't like living in luxury, that doesn't mean you're just going to leave and take our daughter with you." "No, Lily, but a wife who cheats on me is a reason to leave. Expect divorce papers next week." She sighed and then said in her usual derogatory manner, "You're a piece of Southsider. You don't know what kind of hell you're bringing upon yourself. My company will eat you." "That may be so," I said, "but in the end, I will win. You haven't seen my full wrath yet." Over the next 6 months, she made no attempts at reconciliation. She even called me to tell me that she was meeting with one lawyer or another. I didn't care. There was no turning back. I had to get Regina back. She had to go back to school. Regina told me that Lily stayed out almost every evening until at least midnight. She also told me that Lily constantly reproached me, saying that I had no class and that Regina should strive to get one of the rich guys from her school as her future husband so that she could live in luxury for the rest of her days. Regina always defended me and told her mother that she wanted to return to Oak Forest. Now I'm lying here in prison, and Lily probably thinks she's won. I may be in prison, but I will work. I wonder if she thought about how she would pay the mortgage, health insurance, and, of course, spousal support. She probably thought that a few days in prison would make me come to my senses. No, they'll just give me more time to plan and carry out my revenge. Something happened on Thursday afternoon that will change the lives of many people, some of whom I will never meet. 2 guards ordered me, "Go with us." I was taken to a video conference room. I asked, "What does it mean?" "If I have to talk to a judge, I want my lawyer to be present." They pushed me into the room. "Sit down. You won't speak to the judge, but you will be sentenced." They slammed the door, and I started screaming for them to let me out. About 10 minutes later, I was rushing around the room when the door opened, and the guards let 6 prisoners into the room. I knew what they would try, and I was going to do everything I could to prevent that from happening. "You better not mess with me," I said. "You will regret this." One of them came up to me, and I hit him right in the nose. Then they all rushed at me. I swung, kicked, elbowed, and pinned them to the walls. Then the biggest one, 15 centimeters taller than me, put me in a chokehold. I continued to fight until I lost consciousness. I woke up in the infirmary. I was covered in blood and bruises, and my body was in pain. I knew what they did. They needed to establish dominance, and this is how they did it. From the light coming through the window, I realized that it was already morning. I had been out all night. When the nurse approached me, I looked at her with hatred in my eyes. Hatred for this whole system that could take my child away from me, force me to pay so that my ex-wife could continue to live in the mansion, and finally lock me up in prison to teach me a lesson. The nurse looked at me. I was tied up so I couldn't move my arms and legs. Seeing the hatred in my eyes, she said, "I'm here to help you, not hurt you. You were severely beaten. They said you were in a fight, but we both know the truth. I can either help you get better, or you can lie here and suffer. For me, there is no difference." It could be said that she didn't say the last words seriously. She wanted to help. I tried to smile. "Sorry, you experienced a traumatic event. I can only imagine your rage." She left but returned with a plate of breakfast for me. She released one of my hands. "Thank you," I said. "My pleasure." While I was sitting and eating, I realized what I was going to do. "Can I ask you a favor?" "It depends on the circumstances," she replied. "One of the prisoners, Randall Turner, is a friend of mine who I grew up with. Can I ask him to visit me?" "We'll see," she answered indifferently. It turned out that she managed to get permission for Randall, or Ringer as I called him, to visit me later that day. He walked in, and upon seeing me, he said, "Oh." He knew I wasn't going to let it go. I described the 6 guys and the 2 guards who did this to me. I need to know the full names of all 8 of them, not their nicknames. "Oh crap," he repeated. "And what are you going to do? An eye for an eye with a TST?" He saw the look in my eyes and knew what it meant. He knew it wouldn't be pretty and that innocent people might pay. "I'll try to get them," he said. "What do you need me to do?" "Only this. I'll take care of the rest." We talked some more, and then he was escorted back to his cell. Sleep that night was restless. I couldn't get comfortable tied to the bed. The next day, Ringer returned with a list. He asked again, "What's next?" "The less you know, the better." "Oh crap," he said. The next day was Sunday, and I got both a good and a bad surprise. Lily arrived and brought Regina with her. Lily was the first one to talk to me. "So I see you get along with your fellow scum. What the hell do you want?" I growled. "Regina insisted that we visit you. Are you ready to apologize and be reasonable?" "Not a damn thing like that. And what's all this crap about me and Regina? You know that I would never do anything to her." "How should I know?" "She has an unusual affection for you," she said. "You piece of shit, get the hell out of here and send Regina in. I'm tired of talking to you." She smiled the way only disgusting trash can smile. She thought she had me, and she did. She was just adding fuel to the fire that would burn her 5th place. When they brought Regina in, she started crying when she saw that I was lying all bandaged up. "Honey, don't cry. It just looks worse than it is." "Oh Dad, I was scared to see you in this state. You look like you were in an accident." Don't worry about me, honey. I'm tougher than I look. Dad, I hate Mom for doing this to you. I hate her for making me live with her, and I hate her for saying that you did indecent things to me. This is complete nonsense. I know, Regina, I said, trying to console her. Don't call me that again, she said. I looked at her puzzled. From now on, I'm Gina. I don't want to be associated with my mother or anyone from her family. So I told her about it and then added that I wouldn't talk to her mother anymore unless I needed to. I haven't spoken to her since Monday. She keeps trying to be nice to me, but I keep ignoring her. Gina, I said, using her new chosen name, you're more like me than you think. I'm very proud of it. She smiled. We talked a little more about small things, then I asked, can you do something for me? Anything, Dad. I handed her the list that Ringer had made for me, and she immediately put it in her bra. Give this to Uncle Ken and tell him to come see me as soon as possible. My brother Ken was 3 years younger than me. He grew up with the same abusive, drunken father, but I protected him as best I could. I also had to bear the brunt of the violence to protect him. He had great brains. He became really interested in computer games and then moved on to computers themselves. We sat and talked for a while until Lily came back and said, Regina, we have to go. Gina didn't say anything to her. She just stood up, hugged me, and left. Your daughter is as stubborn as you, Lily exclaimed. I just smiled at her, and she turned and walked away. On Tuesday, Ken paid me a visit. He was shocked by my appearance. I look much better than last Friday. I'm glad I waited, he joked. Then he started talking to me in our own made-up language. We created it when we were little to talk about Mom and Dad without them understanding. Now, when we need to talk privately, we use it. Regina, I'm sorry, Gina, he said in our language. She gave me the list. I've done some preliminary research. What exactly are you looking for? Addresses of wives or regular girlfriends, I said. He looked at me and then said in English, oh. Switching back to our own language, I said, that's all you have to do. Then give it to Gummy and ask him to visit me without a list. Gummy was the nickname of one of my gang members. Ken knew that he still lived in his parents' old house in the Lansing area. I can do it. Anything else? No, that will be enough. Just don't be a stranger. It wouldn't hurt to see a familiar face from time to time. Aren't you getting out soon? He asked. Not if I don't apologize, and you know me better. You've always been stubborn, he said. Yes, and it saved you from our father's drunken wrath. He knew I was right and just smiled. I'll come by in a couple of weeks and see if you need anything else. That would be great. Later that week, I returned to my regular cell, and Ringer spread the word that something was going to fall and there would be hell to pay. They just didn't know how. The looks I received from the 2 guards as well as from the 6 prisoners said, you better stay where you are, or it will happen again. They did not know that they would be put in their place. Gummy came to visit and told me, Ken gave it to me. What do you need? Did you hear what they did to me? Yes, I heard. Ken probably told them to return the favor but to target their loved ones. Just no identification. Use Steely Dan or his more flexible cousins, I said. He nodded, understanding what I meant. Then I said, all on the same day, preferably at the same time. Make sure they tell their loved ones, don't mess with Texas. I'll call my friends to help, he said and left. Soon, he would avenge me. He knew how to do it without them being able to identify anyone, however, they would know the reason for this. A week passed, and I didn't hear anything. I was also expecting another visit from my daughter. I didn't want to see Lily, but I knew she would have to be here if Gina came. On Tuesday morning, I noticed that 2 security guards were not at work. Usually, they didn't have a day off on Tuesday. In addition, one of the 6 prisoners was absent-minded and looked upset. It must have happened yesterday, I thought to myself. I spoke to Ringer and told him to spread the word, don't mess with Texas. Soon, several prisoners began to call me Texas. After a couple of days, the 6 prisoners began to cast evil glances at me. The 2 guards returned to work and looked at me. However, Ringer's friends had my back. When one of the 6 prisoners approached me, 8 of my new friends came and surrounded us. The guy said, "You're a piece of shit. I don't know how you did it, but my girlfriend left me. She told me she didn't want to risk getting hurt again. Then she said they told me, don't mess with Texas." I just looked at him and smiled. Sounds like good advice. I told you all not to do what you did. Now your women know what it's like, an eye for an eye with a twist. The point is that you hurt me, and I hurt those you care about. Tell everyone else that next time it will be their mothers. His eyes grew big, and he returned to his friends. Shortly after this, 2 guards approached me. "Who do you think you are? We're going to make your stay here hell." Well then, I think your wives better get used to the fact that they will be treated the same way as I was. They might even like it. After that, one of the guards came up to me to hit me. I didn't resist. A minute or 2 later, another guard pulled him away. Many prisoners witnessed this, and I'm sure the cameras saw it too. I was led back to the infirmary, where I was met by Beth, the nurse who helped me the first time. "So we have a troublemaker here, huh?" "I didn't hit anyone. It was the guard who started beating me." "Well, this time there will be an investigation. There were too many witnesses. He might lose his job because of this." "One less guard," I said. "These guards ensure your safety, whether you believe it or not. Last time he definitely didn't guard me." "In fact, he let it happen," I replied. "She bandaged me and told me I would have to stay overnight for observation. I wondered if she just wanted to look at my beautiful face, which was pretty bruised." The security guard had been suspended pending an investigation. The other guard kept giving me stern looks but didn't dare say anything to me. He may have received the message, "Don't mess with Texas." It had been 3 weeks since Gina visited me, and I was wondering what had happened. Finally, Ken came and told me that Lily was refusing to bring Gina to visit. This made me even angrier. My ex-wife was hiding my daughter from me. At the end of the month, Lily arrived. She almost left Gina at home, but Gina would not get out of the car no matter how much Lily screamed. Lily came to me, already furious. "Your daughter behaves unbearably. She almost never talks to me. She's just as stubborn as you. You said that was the last time you were here. Why don't you get the judge to reverse his decision and give custody of her to me? I will gladly take her off your hands." "You won't get it. She needs to go to a good school so she can achieve anything. Oak Forest is a good school, and she liked it there. She's not even close to Wilmot. She's getting a great education and meeting people who can help her in the future," she replied. "Our daughter will make her own way in life. She doesn't need to ride on someone's coattails. You're just so stubborn that you don't see the good it can bring, Lily. We've argued about this hundreds of times. You'll never change my mind, and I'm not going to change yours. Why did you even come here? I know it's not to bring Gina to me. Her name is Regina, not Gina." "Well, she doesn't want to be called that. Don't you want her to be an independent woman?" "You mean stubborn?" Lily asked. "No, I mean independent, capable of thinking for herself, deciding what is right for her, not giving in to the entreaties of a guy with money or power." She looked at me and grinned. "So," she said, "I need spousal support. I need to buy things and pay bills. Well, you'll have to afford all this on your salary. While I'm incarcerated, I can't receive checks from my ex-corp, and I shouldn't. No work, no salary. That's how it works in the real world." "What do you mean?" "I can't pay all the bills with my salary." "Well, you should have thought about that before you took me to court again," I replied. "Well, you behave like a fifth place, making the payment in small change." "Well, now you don't get paid because I'm in jail." "You must," she said. "No, I shouldn't." "What will they do to me, put me in prison if I don't?" "Oh wait, I'm already in prison. It wouldn't be very wise of them to pull me out and then throw me back." "What should I do with the bills?" she whined. I looked at her. "Have one of your lawyer friends pay the bills. I'm sure you're worth it." After that, she ran out of the room. Gina came in, and I was so glad to see her. "Wow, you really pissed her off," she said. She expects me to continue paying her spousal support while I'm in prison. Ha, good luck. How are you holding up, Dad? Don't worry about me. I'll be fine. How are you doing? I heard you still don't talk to your mom. Not very much, only when necessary, she admitted. So, where are you getting out of here, honey? I refuse to apologize to that judge, and I will only apologize if he returns you to me. I don't think this will happen anytime soon. It's possible that I won't leave here until my 6 months are up. I understand, she said sadly. You know that next month will be my birthday. I wish you would come out so we could celebrate, but I don't want you to go against your principles. We can celebrate when you come out. This threw me off track. I began to reconsider my position. I was hurting my little girl by being here. Then Gina said something that put everything into perspective. If a person has no principles, he has nothing. As Abraham Lincoln said, important principles may and must be inflexible. Where did you hear that? I asked. My consultant, Dr. Hodges at school. It was great to have someone to talk to about all this. Some of my teachers noticed that my grades were falling and asked the psychologist to come and talk to me. It also helped me cope with my mother, although I still don't talk to her. It makes sense that a school system like Wilmot would have a doctor of psychology as a student counselor. These rich kids couldn't talk to a regular school counselor. Then I said to Gina, your mother seems to be angry with you too. Yes, she's starting to annoy me. I just ignore her. I think it makes it worse, but I don't care. Well, in another couple of months, she will have to start looking for housing. The bank will not allow the jumbo loan to go unpaid for too long. I think that within 3 months her mansion will be foreclosed on. But Dad, if the house gets foreclosed on, won't that ruin your credit history? Honey, when you usually buy things with cash, you don't worry about credit. This stupid mansion was the only thing I ever took out a loan for. Is it true? Wow, Dad, even with all your rentals and other businesses, have you ever taken out a loan? I used money from other businesses to buy new ones, honey. I've always respected you, but now I respect you even more, she smiled. Thank you, honey. You really know how to cheer me up. It was a wonderful visit with my daughter. I wanted to be with her more regularly. Missing her birthday would be hard on both of us. I knew she would be okay, she was a strong child. The next week, I learned that the security guard who hit me had been fired. It was difficult to object to the video, which showed that I was not even defending myself. A few days later, the other guard was removed. I don't know if he was transferred or not, but at least he was gone. Several prisoners thanked me for ridding them of the rotten guard. I think that gave me some respect. Now even more people called me Texas. After that, I didn't have any problems. The 6 were still angry with me. I heard that one of their wives filed for divorce, and 3 others were abandoned by their girlfriends. Hey, maybe stupid people can learn. Given the threat of further reprisals and the fact that my position among other prisoners had improved, they knew better than to do anything. A couple of weeks later, I received a summons to the video room to meet with the judge. I told the guard who came to pick me up that I would not meet with anyone without a lawyer. But the judge is already waiting, he said. I don't care. I need my lawyer to reschedule my appointment. My calendar is open. The guard hesitated, then turned and left. 3 days later, I was informed that the meeting was scheduled for the following week. I asked that my lawyer and I have half an hour before the meeting to consult. They agreed on this, and the lawyer and I met to discuss what should happen. My lawyer told me that he was not given any information about the meeting, which he found strange. I think we'll play it by ear, he said. When the judge appeared on the screen, I noticed that he was unhappy about being delayed for a week. I did not care. In my mind, he was a piece of shit who thought he was better than others just because he was a judge. My lawyer spoke almost immediately. Your Honor, may I ask what this meeting is about? We didn't receive any information, we were just told to be here. Your client didn't need to involve you, he said. I just wanted to know if he was ready to apologize to the court for his attack. My lawyer looked at me, and I motioned him over. He leaned over, and I whispered in his ear. Your Honor, my lawyer said, he doesn't want to apologize and asks you to apologize to him. Additionally, he is asking you to give him primary custody of his child. The judge looked shocked. How could I ask him to apologize? Of course, he wouldn't do that. My decision regarding the child remains valid, and I have nothing to apologize for, he said. Well then, it was a waste of our time. If in the future my client decides to change his mind, we will immediately request an audience. All the best, sir, my lawyer replied. One more thing, said the judge. I thought, now we will find out the true reason for the meeting. Your client does not comply with the court's decision on divorce. When does he plan to make the required spousal support and mortgage payments? My lawyer leaned towards me, and I whispered in his ear again. Your Honor, he does not plan to make any payments while he is in custody. But his house will be foreclosed on, said the judge. Not my house. Maybe my wife's mansion, but this is not my house. I never wanted to have it, I told the judge directly. It will ruin your credit, and you will lose all your capital, he said. It's a small price to pay to see my loving ex-wife walking outside where she belongs, I said. Then I added something I knew would piss him off. Perhaps all our night buddies can make the payments. I'm sure between a dozen of you, you can find the money. I knew that hinting my wife was promiscuous and the judge was one of her lovers would make him furious. You're a good-for-nothing piece of shit from the South Side. Who do you think you're talking to? He exploded. I think I'm talking to the one who took communion with my wife's body. If I'm wrong about this, I'm very sorry. I just can't understand why someone who isn't involved cares so much, I retorted. With these words, I stood up and went to the door to be let out. I heard the judge say, Counselor, your client just earned himself 2 extra months in prison. If he continues to disrespect me, I will make his life hell. I smiled as I waited for the guard to take me back to my cell. You could tell he was listening because he had a stunned expression on his face. He couldn't believe what I just did. When I returned to the cell, I was completely on edge. Apparently, my wife told her boyfriend something about the mortgage, and they, in turn, talked to the judge. What a rat's nest. Their time will come soon. The following Sunday, Lily couldn't resist coming to visit me in prison. Luckily, Gina found out about this and forced her to take her along. So, I heard that you angered the judge again and received another 2 months in prison. When will you learn you can't fight the system, Lily? Why don't you just talk to me anymore? All you're doing is showing off how you feel about the North Side. I don't need it. All I need is for you to make sure that Gina visits me regularly. She practically screamed, This is Regina. I turned away and didn't talk to her. She just kept nagging. Finally, she left, and Gina came in. When she walked in, she had a huge smile on her face. I asked her why she was so happy. Because I get to see my dad, she said. This cannot be the only reason. Well, I have a surprise for you, but I can't tell you what it is until I think it all through. Dad, do you trust me? With my life, I said. Then will you sign this paper without reading it first? She asked, holding out a folded piece of paper. I looked at her warily. What are you planning? You'll have to wait and see. I thought you trusted me. Smiling at her, I signed the paper. She folded it so that only the place where she wanted me to write my name was visible. Mom told me that you did something to get your sentence extended for another 2 months. Is this true? Yes, sorry honey. What did you do? I ran into the judge again. Well, whatever you did, he probably deserved it. We talked a little more about school and her mom. She kept talking about Dr. Alex Hodges and wondering what was going on. I tried to get her to tell me what she planned to do with my signature, but she said it should remain a surprise. Children learn more from the example of their parents than in the classroom. We were her teachers for what she would face in life. What do you think your example will teach her? I asked. I hope it teaches her what not to do. Our task as parents is to raise law-abiding, responsible adults. I hope we have achieved this, and I hope that she will not pay attention to our failures, especially our marriage. It wasn't that bad, she said. No, but it all ended that way. Lily, I hope you find what you're looking for. Obviously, I didn't have it. She looked at me with sadness and regret in her eyes. I got up from the table and left. I felt sorry for her again. Finally, the day came when I was to be released. This time, I was summoned to a real court. Gina, Freddie, and Lily were there. As I sat and waited for the judge, I wondered what he would say this time. I still had no intention of apologizing. The bailiff ordered us to stand. We stood up when the judge entered. It was not the same judge. I wondered if he had really lost his job. The judge considered all the facts presented to him regarding my situation. Then he looked at me. "So, Mr. D'Angelo, what do you have to say in your defense?" I hesitated. "I think I should say that I worked my original 6 months plus 2 more. At any moment, you could apologize and get your freedom," he said. I didn't feel that the judge deserved my apology, so I carried out his sentence. "You are a stubborn man, Mr. D'Angelo. I prefer to call it a strong-willed character, and it has helped me succeed in business and in life," I replied. "As for your divorce agreement, it remains in force, and you will have to pay compensation for the months you did not comply with it," the judge said. Then my lawyer spoke. "Your Honor, my client will gladly pay what he owes. According to our calculations, this is just under $20,000. He will generously pay her the full $20,000 today, knowing that he has fulfilled his financial obligations and will not pay her anymore." After these words, Lily stood up. "What? You owe me more. You must continue to pay me until Regina turns 18. "Miss," said the judge, "I will consider all transactions myself in my courtroom." "So, counselor, how did you arrive at this figure?" "Your Honor, my client paid the first installment of spousal support, mortgage, and insurance, and also provided support for his daughter. He continued to pay for his daughter's insurance and maintenance throughout his incarceration. He did not pay his ex-wife either a spousal pension or a mortgage payment because he was not working and therefore could not receive a salary. Now that he can work again, he can start making money," my lawyer explained. The judge looked at the numbers. "Your client was incarcerated for 8 months. Spousal support alone would have amounted to $116,000, not to mention the mortgage payment. Your Honor, if you read the transcript of the court decision, it says that until the minor child becomes an adult. Your Honor, the child in question has been emancipated within the last 3 months. The legal documents are in front of you, and the home was foreclosed on 3 months ago. Thus, there can be no payments on a loan that no longer exists. Therefore, we have before you the information that the amount of debt is $19,782. He will happily pay her the entire $20,000 and will consider his relationship with her terminated in all respects," my lawyer said. The judge looked at the transcript and then back at our numbers. He couldn't understand how to get around what was written in front of him in black and white. "I'll have to do a little more research, but if what you gave me is correct, then I'll accept that figure." Then he looked at Lily and me. "You have a child together." "Yes, she is legally an adult in the eyes of the court, but she is still a teenager with teenage problems and needs. She needs both of you to be polite to each other so she can continue to develop in a healthy way. You should all be polite to each other." Then, looking straight at me, he said, "And you must be polite to others involved in the events that led to your divorce. May I have your word on this, Mr. D'Angelo?" "Yes, Your Honor." "Mrs. D'Angelo?" "Yes, Your Honor," she said. "And Regina," he said, looking into the gallery. "I'm Gina, but yes, Your Honor," she said. "Then, unless this information turns out to be false, I will close this case, and Mr. D'Angelo, you can go." "Thank you, Your Honor," my lawyer replied. When we got up and started to leave, Gina ran up to me and hugged me tightly. Freddie stood nearby with a smile on her face. I saw Lily looking at us while we were talking. Then she came up to me. $20,000? This is all? It's why you chose your new people over me. They can help you get out and get back on your feet, you an idiot. You can't do this to me. Lily, the judge asked us to be polite to each other. Let's do this for Gina. She's Regina, Lily spat. Our daughter. Okay, what should I do? I have no job, no housing, nothing. You can find another job. And as for housing, I can help you. I can accommodate you in one of my houses free of charge for 6 months. This way, you can focus on getting your life in order. You want me to move back to the south side? She whined. It's free rent. Is it bad? Ew, she exclaimed. Then I turned to Gina and Freddie. Ladies, are you ready to go? Certainly, they both said. Freddie, I think I owe you a nice dinner. I think I remember something, she said. Well, let's go to RPM Italian. I booked a table when I received confirmation of my release date. I really need to cleanse my palate of prison food. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw Lily. I could tell she was furious. This was our restaurant. We went there together on special occasions. The table is reserved for 6:30, so we have some time. Do you mind if we ride around a little? I just need to get used to the freedom, I said. Then I turned to Freddie. I have reserved a table for 4. Could you call your husband and see if he is free? She fell silent, and her face became expressionless. Then Gina said, Dad, she doesn't have a husband. Not anymore. Then she turned to Alex. Sorry, Dr. Hodges. I didn't tell him. I did not understand. The few times we spoke, she always wore a set of wedding rings. Even now, she wears them. What did I miss? I'm sorry, Freddie, if I offended you. It's not worth it. You didn't know. My husband died on the Eisenhower Highway about 5 years ago. A large car changed lanes and drove into the median. They say he died instantly. I'm so sorry, Freddie. I didn't know. I just assumed that because you wore rings, you were married. Yes, I just haven't been able to take them off yet. For some reason, it seems to me that if I do this, I will forget about him. I know a psychologist with mental problems. I've heard this before. Well, I'm really sorry. Will you join us so I can try to make amends? She looked gloomy but said, I think it will be good. Being so focused on my problems and my revenge, I didn't even ask her about her life. I felt like such a 5th place. I needed to change this starting tonight. I will be open to hearing anything she wants to tell me about who she is now and how she got here. I'll be your best friend. The food was great. It was so nice to be able to wear regular clothes and not have to worry about being on guard at all times. Although freedom seemed a little strange to me, 8 months does that to you. By the end of dinner, I felt much better. I took a chance with Freddie. Alexandria, when you're ready, will you let me take you on a real date? I don't care how long it takes, as long as you're comfortable. But in the meantime, can we stay in touch? Dad, of course we will stay in touch, she said. She won't get rid of me that easily, my daughter said, and I wouldn't want it to be any other way, Freddie told Gina. Then she turned to me and said, Mike and I never had kids because I was in school and he was starting a financial planning business. It just wasn't the right time. So having Gina as a surrogate daughter was very therapeutic. I hope you don't mind. After everything you've done for both of us. I wouldn't mind, I said. As we were leaving the restaurant, Gina said, I hope you like the look of our old house. Anything will be better than where I've been living for the last 8 months. I chuckled. When we got there, I was surprised. The shutters were painted and the bushes trimmed. Everything looked great from the outside, and I couldn't wait to see what was inside. When I walked into the house, it looked different than the one I had left, but it felt more like home than ever. I felt Freddie's touch there. I know it sounds cheesy, but I started crying. Kurt, I heard Freddie say. I wiped my eyes. I feel right at home, CT, Alex said. When I turned to her, she said, I think I'm ready. Puzzled, I looked at her. She took off her rings and smiled at me. I couldn't resist smiling back, and then we hugged. 10 lawyers, 4 paralegals, 6 politicians, and a judge had their careers and marriages destroyed because of the events that led to my divorce. And well, I'm sorry. I won't be there for your 16th birthday, but the next time you come see me, I'll have a birthday present for you, which she asked. It's a surprise, so I think we're both in for some surprises, I said. At the end of the visit, I asked Gina to invite Greg to join me. Greg was my right-hand man. He helped me in all my business affairs. Of course, Dad, she said. I gave Greg some specific instructions. When I realized I was going to jail, I hoped he was able to fulfill them. Now I had another job for him, a surprise for Gina's birthday. Later that week, Greg came to visit me. In fact, he was able to do quite a lot of what I asked for. Then I asked him to prepare my birthday surprise for Gina. He looked at me. Are you sure? Yes, this is the perfect gift for her. Okay, I'll talk to our lawyer, he said. Also, visit my brother Ken and give him what you have. He will know what to do with it. If he has any questions, let him come to me. If not, tell him to go to Gummy. It will be done, he said and left. I just smiled, and the smile didn't leave my face all day. Gummy knew my cunning mind and would have avenged me. While I was guilty without guilt in prison, by the end of the month, my popularity among the prisoners had increased. The guard must have told someone how I treated the judge, and like any other organization, the rumor mill spread the news among the prisoners. Very soon, everyone started calling me Tex. Besides, by the end of the month, I had a visitor. I walked into the room and saw Lily sitting there. I was about to turn and leave when she said, "CT, please stop. I need to talk to you." "I have nothing to tell you, Lily. We're going to lose our home. You have to give me some money to stop the foreclosure," she pleaded. "This is your home, Lily. I never wanted it, but you kept nagging me until I gave in. This house means nothing to me, and in a falling market, we have no equity in it. Let the bank take it. Kurt, you can't do this. You have to help me. Go and ask your friends for help. I'm sure they have enough money. Then you can truly become the man that you are." "Why are you doing this to me?" she sobbed. "Why did you lie and tell the judge that I was molesting our daughter?" She didn't know what to say. She knew that she had treated me badly. She burst into tears, and I left. I was pleased that all this spilled out of my soul as I was being taken back to my cell. The guard received a call and was told to bring me back. When I walked in, expecting to see Lily sitting there crying and again begging me to help her, I was surprised to see Gina. "Gina, your mom didn't tell me she brought you. I wouldn't let her come without me." "I'm sorry I missed your birthday," I said, "but nevertheless, I have a gift for you, Dad. I knew you'd miss it, and I don't care. I still love you. Besides, you don't have to give me a gift," she said. "What a wonderful daughter I have," I thought. Well, I don't have it with me. In fact, it would be impossible. But I can tell you what it is. Gina, the Oak Forest house is yours. It is placed in trust for you when you become an adult. When I leave here, can I stay there and, of course, pay you rent?" Her eyes widened, and a huge smile appeared on her face. "Dad, my God, you just cleared away a huge obstacle that was holding back a surprise for you. I still can't tell you, but when I do, you'll understand. I love you so much." "I love you too, honey." I was puzzled by the question of what kind of surprise this could be. It must have something to do with our house, not the mansion, but our real home. We both smiled as we continued talking. She spoke again about Alex, her consultant. I wondered if she had fallen in love with him. Hopefully, he was a professional and had no ulterior motives towards her. I need to meet this Alex guy as soon as I get out of here. As I was led back to my cell, I had a huge smile on my face, both from the verbal battle with Lily and from the wonderful conversation with Gina. The other prisoners wondered what I had done now. They already knew that smiling meant someone was in pain. One day, Gummy visited me. Everything was ready, videos of my wife, other paralegals at her firm, some of them married and prostitutes with whom most of the lawyers in the firm had an intim, as well as up-and-coming Democratic politicians and a certain judge I knew all too well. They all boasted that they were above the law and could do whatever they wanted. Surprisingly, people do not pay attention to hired servants. Cleaners can come and go as they please. For someone who does the routine job of cleaning offices after work, money speaks volumes. Free rent for a year says a lot. We simply asked them to install hidden cameras in conference rooms and offices. I knew I would have enough convincing evidence to upset several lives. My brother, anonymously of course, posted videos online with the tag "Don't Mess with Texas." They would be sent to strategic websites, and the video would also be sent to all news outlets and tabloids in the state. Various publications will be watching in a frenzy to see who can make the most news out of this. Politicians and lawyers will frantically try to eliminate the consequences. I smiled. In a week, go and tell the others what's going to happen next. Necessarily. There was another big smile on my face as I walked back to my cell. Ringer saw this and realized that I had just talked to Gummy. "Oh crap," he said. I simply nodded and smiled even wider. When the video footage came out, I was lying on my bunk and heard murmurs going through the prison. Apparently, somehow the news had reached our little corner of hell. I began to hear people say openly, "Don't mess with Texas." A few minutes later, I was surprised when a big guy, one of the 6, came into my cell. "You're a bad. I'm sorry for what I did to you. I told you all not to mess with me, that you will regret it." Now, more and more people regret contacting me. I respond to kindness with kindness and to violence with violence. Well, I hope you accept my apology. Of course. Just remember, just because you're big doesn't mean you can't be hurt. He nodded and left. About 3 days later, I was again called before the judge. He had already called my lawyer, and he was on his way. We sat in the video room, waiting to connect with the judge. "I wonder what's the matter," he said with a grin. "Only time will tell," I grinned. "Oh crap," he said when the judge appeared. He looked at me with fire in his eyes. "You did it," he shouted. "What are you about?" I said indifferently. "Your text, right?" He was still screaming. "Some people call me that," I answered calmly. "You will pay for this," he yelled again. "I have been in prison for the last 4 months. How could I do anything?" "You have friends." "We all have friends, Your Honor," I said sarcastically. "You won't get away with this," he spat. "I don't know, Judge. You may soon be out of work." "Work, and I heard that your wife is divorcing you." "Better call off your dogs," he demanded. "Now you call my friends dogs. I'm not sure they'll appreciate it. You know, if you corner a dog, you might get bitten." "You are threatening me?" he asked. "No, I'm just repeating an old proverb. I'm going to make your life hell. When you ever get out of this slimy prison, you better watch out. One day you will have to answer to people who don't care about your life, and I will be happy no matter what they do to you." Then he turned off the transmission. I turned to my lawyer. "Did you write it down?" "Of course," he said, holding his phone in his hands. More fuel for the fire. Bar Association. It will be interesting to hear this. It appears that in Illinois, intimidation is a criminal offense. A few days later, another visitor came to me, and it was my wife again. "Oh, it's you," I thought. "I made it clear to you that I have nothing more to say to you." "You back idiot," she shouted. "What are you talking about?" I asked calmly. "Because of you, I was fired. My photo is all over the news and the internet." "How could you do this to me?" she whined. "You did this to yourself. Do you hate me that much?" "Yeah, and all your lawyer friends who think they're better than everyone else," I spat back. I continued. "When we first met, you were a sweet small-town girl with a great personality, and now you're just a big shot from the upper city who doesn't love anyone but herself. What should I do? I don't have a job, and no one will hire me." "You should move back to Seymour and live with your family," I suggested. "I can't." There was a headline in the local newspaper, "Local Girl at Center of Chicago Scandal." My parents are planning to retire early and move to Florida to avoid all this talk. "Florida seems like a good place for you." "You'll be much further away from me," she said. "They don't want to see me. They almost don't want to talk to me." "Wow, your parents hardly want to talk to you, and your daughter almost doesn't talk to you." "Maybe it's you," I said. "I think you should move and start over. But it's better not to take Gina with you. As soon as I get out of here, I'll come back and petition the court for primary custody." I think with your reputation, they will reconsider your candidacy as the best moral example for an impressionable girl. You can't do this, she said. She is all I have left, Lily. I don't care. You did this to yourself. We had a good life, and then you wanted a knight on the side. Hey, that's a thought. You could be for one of your lawyer buddies. I'm sure there's a market for nearly 40-year-old, I said. She looked at me, and in her eyes, I saw only pain. She laid her forehead on the table in front of her and simply cried. It sucks to be you, I said. Then, he asked, did you bring Gina? She practically lost her temper, exclaiming, she's Regina, and no, she's doing something with her doctor friend. Well then, I have nothing more to tell you. Don't come back unless you bring Gina, I said, and turned and walked away while she was still furious. This time I didn't have a smile on my face. In fact, I felt sorry for her. She was broken. The next day, I saw the night news. It turned out that the top floor of a 5-story office building in the city center caught fire. Thanks to the sprinkler system, the lower 4 floors were not destroyed, but the upper floor was burned out. I just smiled. The next day, Ken came to me and told me that the law firm's external server had crashed. All their data was lost. And again, I just smiled. A couple of weeks later, another visitor came to see me. It was Gina. She must have asked her mother to bring her. She walked in with the biggest smile I've ever seen. Gina, I called her, you look incredibly happy. What's happened? I was finally able to finish my surprise for you. You'll never guess what it is. Well, I know from our last conversation that it has something to do with the house in Oak Forest. Don't tell me you and your mom moved there. I know she would rather live anywhere but there. You're half right, she said. I looked at her puzzled. Mom's getting evicted from the Wilmette house, and I'm moving to a house in Oak Forest. How are you going to do this? The court ordered her to have primary custody of you until you become an adult, I asked. This is a surprise. By law, I am already an adult now, she said. I was really puzzled. Emancipation? This is what Alex and I have been working on for the last 2 months. Once you placed the house in trust for me, it was a piece of cake. I needed somewhere safe to stay, and our old neighborhood was perfect for that. So let me get this straight. Are you considered an adult now? Yes, when I started having problems at school, mainly due to problems at home, Dr. Hodges helped me solve this problem. Once you get out of here, you can go home. I can't wait to go back to Oak Forest High School. I have already talked to many of my old friends. They can't wait for summer to end and school to start. Mom said you're spending time with your counselor. I'd like to meet this Alex, I said. I was still afraid that this older guy was paying so much attention to my daughter. Well, you're lucky. Alex is here with me now, Gina said. I needed to assess the situation. How do I tactfully let Alex know that he is walking a fine line when it comes to his intentions towards my daughter? I didn't want to upset my daughter, but I wanted to put the fear of God in him. When Gina walked through the door again, she was followed not by a man but by a gorgeous raven-haired woman. She smiled at me with a smile that said, "How are you doing?" I took a closer look at her. "Freddie." "I haven't heard this name for about 20 years, I said. She answered Freddie, or more correctly, Alexandria Frederico. She was from my area. She didn't hang out with my gang, but we went to school together, Gina explained. Gina looked at us both in confusion. "Dad, how do you know Dr. Hodes?" "Freddie or Alex now, I think," answered for me. "We used to live in the same area, but then he did not deign me with his attention." I turned to Gina. She was a couple of years behind me in school, and we didn't really move in the same circles. "And you, at that time, were a juvenile delinquent," Freddie said. "I see you haven't changed much." "You're already over 40, and you're in prison," Gina said. My face turned red. I still can't keep my mouth shut when it's appropriate. "Looks like it," Freddie said. "I heard that I should probably call you Texas." "What?" said Gina. "Why do you call him that?" "That was his nickname when he was a teenager. He was never afraid to take revenge when someone did wrong to him." Your mom definitely did him wrong, and if I'm not mistaken, I bet the news about the law firm is all Tex is doing. I insist on the fifth. I said before we continue I wanted to ask if you don't mind me spending time with Regina. I'm Gina, Regina said. Sorry, I forgot, she said. Then she looked at me again. When I first started talking to Gina about 9 months ago, she was very upset about everything that was happening in her life. I wondered if she was related to you and Ken, since D'Angelo is not a very common surname. When I looked through her notes and learned that her father's name was Kurt, I still wasn't sure. I've always known you as TCH. When she told me you were in prison, I was sure it was you. I was pretty bad back then, I admitted. You must have changed and become successful if you have a house in Wilmette, she said. It's just a house. It was never my home. Here Gina got stuck. Yes, our real home is in Oak Forest, South Side, but in a much nicer area than where we grew up, Alex said. Yes, if we had stayed there, we might not be where we are now, I said, then darkened. Perhaps it was true. If Lily had been happy with our loving home, we would still be happily married. We talked a little more, and then I called Freddie aside. I really appreciate you taking time away from your family to help them. Thank you also for helping her become emancipated. This will change everything. It's okay, Texas. She's like family to me. I became very attached to her. Fine, thanks again. When you get out of here, maybe you could invite us all out for dinner, she said. That's what I'll do if I ever get out of here. The next 2 weeks passed without any new events, just the daily routine in prison. Gina and Freddie came to visit on Sundays. I really liked that Freddie took Gina under her wing. Gina told me that Alex helped her decorate her house. They bought all new furniture and other decorative items. When I asked where they got the money, she replied, from Uncle Ken, of course. I have money set aside for my needs, right? Yes, I just didn't want to find out that Freddie was paying for something. She helped a lot, but no, she didn't buy anything. I hope it's not all girly stuff. I would like to feel at home there. Don't worry, your man cave is still a man cave, she was talking about the basement. I set it up as a refuge for myself. Living in a house with 2 women can get boring after a while. You just need somewhere to be alone. After they left, I lay there and thought about how my daughter was growing up. She was now an adult. Soon I'll be on my own. In a couple of years, she'll be off to college, and then who knows where. I was hoping that I could meet someone who appreciates the simpler things in life. Then, on Monday, I had another visitor. It was Lily again. When I saw her, I turned and was almost out the door. CT, wait. We need to talk, I turned back. So, what now? I thought. Do you know what our daughter did? What are you talking about, Lily? I asked. She went and emancipated herself. She doesn't have to live with any of us anymore. In fact, she has already moved out, and I don't know where she went. Oh, that, I said. So you know. Did you put her up to it? She accused. No, she did it herself. The school psychologist helped her. So, where does she live? With a consultant? No, she returned home. She moved back to the South Side. What about school? She asked. She'll be back in Oak Forest in the fall, I said. She hated that school in Wilmette, Lily. She was always belittled for being a projects kid, as they called it. She never belonged to high society. You took her out of a school she liked, where she had many good friends, and put her in a situation that hurt her ego and gave her an inferior complex. You did her more harm than good by transferring her there. I was just trying to make sure she got a good education, she said. Aftermath stubbornness or willpower. In any case, sometimes you have to defend your principles. On the other hand, Gina has a new mother as well as a new brother and sister, although they were about 18 years younger than her when they were born. One of them is named Frederick, the boy, and the girl is Alexis. They were twins, and I love that I could name them both after the man who helped me start a new life. About Lily, she married a rich lawyer. I think she finally got what she wanted. I thought we had it all: a loving family, a nice house in a nice area, a healthy child, a thriving business that didn't require a lot of cash. I think for me, we had everything. But for her, we did not have one thing: status. Now she has status. She is married to a rich lawyer and lives in a big house in Wilmette. And she also has a husband, a misogynist who does not love her but simply keeps her close for the appearance of a stable home life. I hope she's happy. Kurt D'Angelo, after a difficult divorce from his wife Lily, during which the judge sided with her, was sentenced to 6 months in prison for contempt of court. While in prison, Kurt decides to take revenge on his ex-wife and her entourage, who he believes ruined his life. With the help of friends, he organizes the publication of incriminating videos featuring Lily and her fellow lawyers, which leads to the collapse of their careers and reputations. At the same time, his daughter Gina, is seeking emancipation with the help of school psychologist Alexandria, Alex Hodes, who turns out to be an old acquaintance of Kurt. After 8 months of imprisonment, Kurt is released and learns that Gina has moved into their old house, which he gave her. Kurt meets with Alex and learns that she was widowed 5 years ago. Mutual sympathy arises between them, and Kurt ends up marrying Alex. They have twins. Lily marries a wealthy lawyer but is apparently unhappy in her new marriage. Kurt finds happiness in his new family. What do you think of our story today? It seems to me that the husband could not stand and forgive the fact that his wife slept with her coworkers, but I'm not judging him, but only saying that I would do the same as he did. It is not a forgivable action on the part of the wife. What's your opinion? Write in the comments. See you in the next video.